Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time, please like, hit on the subscribe button and comment below. Just like you've seen from the thumbnail that it is a milkmaid blouse that we're about to do today. Follow up for each process. This is beginner friendly if you should pay attention. So the first thing you'll be doing is taking the measurement of your body, the length you're working with. You take the measurement of the length you're working with, and that's what we're about to do. We take the length we're working with. I'm working with the customer's half length, so I'm taking, and a half length is 19. Next thing we'll be doing is taking the bust point measurement. The bust point measurement. I've taken the bust point measurement, and the next thing I did was to take the under bust measurement. That is from the shoulder to the under bust. And as you can see, that is what just did. And then I drew a straight line and I labeled it. Next is I took my chest line measurement, like I took this in and I labeled it too. The next thing I did was to take my shoulders measurement, my shoulder measurement, and as you can see, divided by 2, which gives us 6.5, because the shoulder measurement is 13, gave us 6.5, as you can see. Then the next thing I did was to measure my bust divided by 4, the bust measurement divided by 4, bust measurement divided by 4, and I did that from the bust point. That was where I took my measurement. From the bust point, I did that from the bust point. So I made sure I connected it. Next thing I did was I went straight down. I told you it's a crop top, so I measured my waist, measurement, and that's what I'm doing, my waist measurement, and I did it. That is it, my waist measurement, and I added 2 inch 2 inches seam allowance plus 1 inch for that, and then I connected everything, the points together. And next thing, I went inside half an inch to get my armhole. I went by half an inch, then I drew a curve in the absence of a curve this thing a curve instrument, and that's all. And next thing I did was to measure my dart, that is the nipple to nipple divided by 2. I made a mistake here by measuring from the side, but which I corrected myself later. It is the nipple to nipple divided by 2. As you can see, I corrected myself. Then next thing, after getting all our points, the next thing I did was to make sure the dart, sorry the camera didn't get to that place, to make sure the dart gets to the under bust. After that, after I drew the straight line connecting it, as you can see, with that, and subtracting half an inch from both sides to get my triangle, the next thing I did was to cut out my pattern. Gives us our front pattern already. As you can see, our front pattern is ready. So I took a piece of paper and then place the front pattern on it to give us our back pattern, and this is just exactly everything. The only difference between the back pattern and the front pattern is there'll be 1.5 inch is for seam for zipper allowance, your zip allowance. I made 1.5 inches rather for zip allowance. As you can see, 1.5 inches for zip allowance. That's what I did. Next thing I did was to label it and then cut it out. As you can see, our back is ready. Just so easy. You don't need much stress for the back. Once you've gotten your front, then you just place it on your back on the and that piece to get a pattern for the back, and then you do these necessary things. Then you cut it out, and from as you can see that is our front pattern on the back pattern. As you can see, so the next thing we did was to start the milkmaid, give it the milkmaid effect. First, we separated the under bust from the waist part. See. Then I worked with the bust and upper part of it. So this is what I did to get my milkmaid effect. I took 1.5 inch, 1.5 inches rather. I measured it down through the bust point. 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches. Next thing I did was to connect 1.5 inches above from the chest line down to the bust point, the one that I've done from the bust point. 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches, and I made sure, even though they are not very accurate, but once you're doing yours, you make sure they're very accurate. This is just for tutorial, so I didn't really take it like so. After getting each measurement, each one, after dividing, this method is slash and spread. After dividing the pieces of the paper into pieces, then I'll connect the lines together, then cut out. As you can see, after cutting it out, I'll number the pieces, each piece as a single unit, like 1, 2, 3, 4, to the amount of pieces I got is exhausted. Next thing I did was to look for, after joining, you can see after putting it together, and I've numbered mine like I told you earlier that you should give it number. Then the next thing I did was look for another piece of paper which is large, quite large, and I set the pieces on the new piece of paper, leaving at least 1 inch gap in between each piece, as you can see there. And then the next thing I did was to look for a way to lay them down by using a needle. You can use a sellotape. So because I had no sellotape with me, that was why I made use of what was available at that time. So I used needle to lay the pieces down to the new piece of paper that I cut to give us a new front. As you can see, this was what I did to lay each piece, and then I made sure that they had each, the difference, the gap between a piece and another is 1 inch. Just like the gap between 1 and 2 is 1 inch, the gap between 2 and 3 is 1 inch. Then after I successfully laid them down, you can see, as you can see, I took out my scissors to cut out the new formed pattern. As you can see, as you can see. Then after cutting out this new pattern, I named it front. This is our new front. As you can see, this is our new front. Then I took out the fabric I wanted to use, and I placed the patterns that I had already cut on the fabric, and I cut. One thing you should notice or note is that I didn't cut it exactly the part as it is on the pattern of the paper. I gave at least 1 inch. You can see I gave at least 1 inch gap between the paper and the fabric. This is to get you secured. For the 1 inch below is for your joining, and then the 1 inch above is for twisting, to create when you want to create a loop for your rope. Then after doing this, next thing I did was to cut it out. But you have to be careful to make sure the space that you be leaving will be equal. As you can see, I already cut it out. Already cut it out, and then I slashed it into two. So this is the back. Same method that I did for the front, similar thing I did to the back too. That was what I did. I left space when I was cutting it because I didn't use the exact pattern of this. And then for the waist part, I did similar thing. The waist part is automatically unfold from the paper. There's no need slashing the waist part into two. So I took it to my machine and I lined it. I cut the pattern of lining the same thing and I ironed my lining. So this is me on the machine trying to create my loop for the rope. But this is it. I took out 1 inch, that 1 inch that we left. Can you see? After stitching it, next thing I did was I didn't stitch, I already slashed it. I didn't stitch it up to the upper part so that there will be space for us for the rope to pass through it and to give it that um gathering pattern, the milkmaid effect rather. I folded the inner part just for neatness. I already passed the rope into the loop, as you can see. This is me adjusting it, as you can see. The rope was too long, actually I had to cut it. This is all for the first part. Subscribe to get notified when we drop the finishing part, that is the second part, which tells you and shows you everything the end. Bye.